Well, I think that the world is different compared to what it was in the 20th century. First of all, it is no longer a bipolar world. It's much more complex, it's much more diverse, and it's much less hierarchical compared to what it was. But it is also very different in terms of the infrastructure of strategic stability. If you take the Cold War, especially the late stage of the Cold War, 1970s or 1980s, we had clear rules of the game that were observed by both sides. We had red lines. Everybody knew what these red lines were. And unfortunately, right now, if we compare this situation to the Cold War, it would be probably appropriate to compare the situation today with the early Cold War of 1950s and 1960s. Of course, the risks at that stage were much higher than they were during the mature Cold War. And I think this is a challenge that we should all understand. First of all, Russia should understand the gravity of the situation. The situation is not business as usual. It is not something that we can live with for a long period of time. And it means that Russia should be imaginative in its thinking and flexible in its approach. That clearly includes arms control. It is easy to say that it's impossible to deal with the United States, that the Trump administration is not motivated to have any reasonable arms control with Moscow, but that's not good enough. We should explore other opportunities. Maybe we should work more with our European counterparts. We should definitely try to bring China to the table. And if we cannot have breakthroughs, we should probably consider very small, incremental, even situational steps, which still are important and might pave the way for something more significant and something of a larger scale. It's easy to be pessimistic, and of course, if we are looking for problems, we will see many of these. But I think that there are some glimpses, I wouldn't say flames, but glimpses of optimism as well. First of all, I do believe that the Trump administration is learning. If you take the sanctions policy, for example, you'll see some learning curve, not too steep, but nevertheless. I think that there is still the US political establishment which is interested in arms control. So I do believe that we can probably extend the New START agreement. I think it's important to make sure that both sides stay within the limits of INF, even if INF is no longer with us as a legally binding agreement, but we can try to stay within the parameters of the treaty. I guess that it is also important for both sides to work jointly on non-proliferation. And I would put special emphasis on the preparation of the 2020 NPT review conference. We shouldn't allow this conference to become the last review conference. So we have to do something on the NPT regime. And I also believe that it is really important to start a serious dialogue with the United States on the fundamentals of strategic stability in the 21st century. Because it's no longer just about warheads counting. It's about such issues as cyber, space, drones, artificial intelligence, and the rest. We need to preempt the technological progress in the military field, not to follow it. It is very difficult. It will take a lot of energy and a lot of commitment from both sides. I also hope that at some point this discussion will become multilateral. It will include Europeans, above all French and British, but also Chinese, maybe Indians, but someone has to start. And I think it would be logical for Russia and the United States to take the lead, at least for the time being.